Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 24th of April, and we'll just start scrolling through the numbers. Here's the NASDAQ to start with. And it was an interesting move for the market in the sense that continued up nicely, gave decent trend run, and may have peaked out of the move in doing so, and I'll show it to you based on the readings after we scroll through these. We've got the Dow right here. And it's just kind of odd that you, in rising markets, get a signal that lets you know that you need to be a little bit more cautious about the up move. Now, we were kind of expecting that you might have a stall, a little bit of choppy before breaking up. And that's what we did. So let's go to the ES right here. And it's interesting because we got to this point where the green had crossed above, but then we had the little warning of steel dipping below. And it closed that way, and not only that, the cyan tricked back up. Now, we still had decent rising with the red, but it started to fade off here, and that's going to result in a little bit more downward pressure, potentially as early as, today. I mean, you may see the continuation of that pop, but if we continue to see the rising cyan, it's going to let us know that could be a decent short opportunity in the works. In fact, I think we're going to have red. Yeah, negative 419 is now already below the white. So that's going to be potentially troublesome. Now, you still have to have that cyan move above the green to really give the catalyst of what some people refer to as the D omega spread, where it starts to break away to the upside and the green starts really moving to the down, and that would generate a pretty decent pullback. I would imagine at least half this up move. Well, we can kind of put a little number on that if we want to. Play with our little Fibonacci reading, somewhere around 1840. So that would be a significant decline, plus or minus. I mean, the potential for this to move higher still, getting up closer. For my benefit, I would like to see them take out the top just because that clears any shorts that were in there from that standpoint. And if there are new add-ons there, then you know you've got a real good likelihood for a fade into that. Otherwise, it's still pretty consistent to what we were seeing over here with the extension. The difference being is you do have the green on the upside. You just, for continuation, we needed to see the cyan dip below the red and the white. And then that would give us final upside push. So be a little bit more cautious about any attempts to add at this particular point. So far, likewise, that NASDAQ, again, with this setup here, if you get the steel moving below, that's also going to suggest a pivot lower. Now you've also seen the red flatten. We talked about that the other day. You want to see that break into the new zone. When it doesn't do it, it lets you know that some people are taking profits. And from the Dow standpoint, it's a little bit better, but you now have the steel crossing below the cyan. It's also negative from a short signal. And just a matter of tilting up here with our cyan, and that would be the clear sell configuration within there. And coming off of what was a deep red setup, we would expect to retrace all the way back into the 16,230 range, somewhere in there. So keep that one in mind. USO not improving. That's not great for the market. Fine, it's like a pre-lead out to it, but that spread began, took 2 days, and then boom, plummet. That's not improving. So I'm not looking for that one to go anywhere. Gold, no, you don't have a buy from gold either. So that could change fairly soon, though. I mean, we've been in this deep sell configuration. We're pretty decent lows right there. Quite a spread, so it's going to take a little bit. The cyan candle does suggest higher on the day coming forward. X puts in a nice little yellow candle. It is coming off being in the deep red, so I'm not expecting a whole lot, which means you may be able to get on any retrace coming through this new opportunity to buy back down at the lows, because you've got the dip below the red line there, likely to retrace after a 1 or 2 day. And those who want to buy a put on the pop, they'd be able to do so at that time. CLF, you can see still no buy setup from that configuration, well below in the red line, not moving up in that spread between the cyan and the steel up here versus the other three is pretty large, and now it's deep red. So any pop, definitely shortable on that one. AIG continue to do what we've been looking for, though, just getting to the overbought status, but creating that nice little spread there with the green rising, cyan falling. It's all good. WOT was funny because we were talking about this one just the other day on the intraday chart. Gave a nice progression, and you can see here we broke into the new zone with the red, and that was a good opportunity even in the red configuration. Crossed right over here with the green and then formed a little spider. Thought might see more retrace from it, but whenever you get that pivot that stays above that red on the green, as long as the green stays above that red, you continue to get nice rides out of those. So this one could continue to propel itself. It's going to be at a key point right here. That green really needs to get above and finally solidify a solid run. But it wasn't bad from the 78 minute. I think the daily actually converted to a buy as well. And JCP was continuing its run too. You can see the red. I have to shrink that down a little bit to give you a little tighter view. Sometimes you get too broad, you lose the overall perspective. Just pretty much coming back, retracing that. But you've had the cyan below the red and the white. It still is. So still projects that the upward momentum is just kind of stalled out and absorbs the move and makes room for the next setup. This was another impressive one from the 50K. We had talked about this buy signal way back over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, so about a week in length, but quite a few points. I mean, from 1819 all the way to 1871. So can't complain about that. That moves it to all new equity highs. Let's take a look at the performance report on that. If we look at the graph, we can see we've now achieved all-time highs for this program, just a little over a year old from its inception. And we already talked about how we could have made plenty of improvements along the trade. Even if I get rid of that here, we can even look at this last one. We've been able to absorb quite a few points on that. And so I've been making some adjustments, not to eliminate this particular setup, but to add a secondary one that would just become a difference in time. And this is where diversification and the discussion I always have with that. You don't have to diversify out of, say, the ES or anything. You can just trade in different time frames, and it achieves the same concept for it. We were looking for a little bit of a retrace back to retrace the positive extremes, and it pretty close did exactly just that, and a little reversal up from there. It's interesting here because, I mean, this is starting to develop into what looks like the potential for a little bit of a short case going through there. I mean, obviously we had the full positive extreme here, and you just had cyan move above the, steel move above the cyan, but cyan's below the red and white, and the green has now taken over. So green's running the show on this one, so not a sell yet. Potentially what we're going to be looking for will be a lower red pivot and or lower green pivot here, and that will give you the clear indication. And the ideal situation is that's moved even higher so that you can really take advantage of the move back to the downside. So we'll be looking at that one coming up. Let's take a look at intraday. All right, turning to the 5K. So previous day, beautiful run up, then it went to red, and then it went to deep red, and there were several opportunities to short the little pops that were coming in here because I had missed this one. I was out, but I was able to capture it again when we had the nice little spike back up, and pretty much just got it at the exact same spot. It turned red. Nothing special with that. Came down, we ended up with a couple little buys, moved across, got a little short signal coming through there, and then it turned around in after hours, and boom, nice little pop. All positive extremes within those setups. But you've got nice move green over here. This little pivot of red is interesting because it won't be much to get that back above. So potential is that can continue to make a little bit of a move, but nice overall. Let's take a look at some of the alert stocks. All right, flipping to the alert stocks, we looked at Apple before, and we talked about this being in the deep red and that you'd be able to short any of the pop setups going within it. And sure enough, shocking people that went ahead and faded. Not a big deal. And here we have Amazon, and still it moved positive when it broke into the new zone, but then it kind of stalled as it got to this key point. We still haven't been able to break the green above cyan, so it's a problem. And as long as that continues, it's a tough one. And particularly if steel now moves below the cyan here, that's going to be a continuation for it. You need to see a pivot up of green as well as steel. Hasn't happened yet, and the potential is now that you could get a crossover of red going below. Not particularly great. Here we have Google, and we talked about that spread. That's just ugly. So even though you've got the green there, it's sort of a de facto where you have the red falling below the green, and that's what signaled it. So not particularly a wonderful type signal, particularly with that spread there. Didn't get into massively bearish with the steel dipping below cyan, but you still have that cyan that's right up at the 0 level, really putting downward pressure on price in general. And Netflix, interestingly enough, that decline, a little unusual given this nice upward spiral. I know we had the positive extreme. Look for that retrace. So that was a little bit more selling than one would expect given these readings. So there may be a little bit of head fake within that particular setup. Overall, I mean, that was a pretty decent looking move. It's still a little overbought, but not dramatically so that you'd have to see a reverse pivot here for that to be a continuation to the short side, because otherwise it still looks pretty decent. So that one moved kind of contrary. Showed up in the intraday, but was a little unusual. PCLN, yeah, we knew it was still looking negative. In fact, it looks even more negative than it did before. So we'll see how price can hold up with that one. Tesla had the nice little thing. It was coming to that key point of needing to transition with the green above the cyan right there. Didn't quite do it. It's got another shot at it. That's at a particularly poignant spot. Probably have to get rid of these lines because this was way back from over here. No need to have that in there anymore. Moving on to Twitter. Yeah, and that's kind of rolling off to the soft side. Still okay with the green, just right at the cyan, just a little bit underneath it. Could give a de facto cross here as the white moves above. Need to see that red turn up if you're going to continue and break out to a new run. Be watching that one for intradays, because either direction, whatever the signals are, I would stay with them. And likewise, Baidu, that looks negative. Dip crossover, steel below. And FAS had a nice run with the market, but again, still hasn't crossed over. So a lot of this is starting to look a little bit like the market too, where you're getting divergent pump. It may have some issues here coming forward. So kind of interesting to start seeing on a lot of stocks too that they're having some issues in moving forward. That spread on Facebook, while it started to move over, flattened out. Not particularly wonderful, particularly with that cyan at the lower pivots. See a lower pivot with the steel, and it just boom started to cascade, and potential is for that to come all the way back. So all in all, a couple of interesting readings that are a little divergent, but more often they're pretty much in line. So all in all, no complaints with any of that. So we'll just keep at it and keep following those signals. As always, trade well. We'll talk again tomorrow.